So we were doing a bunch of stuff. We were editing polygons, polylines. We saw how to interact with what we just created using the edit button and the modify shape tool in order to act onto our shapes and to modify, duplicate, cut, reshape things, and so on. And this is all very interesting. But as Trent said, there are also some functions that are embedded into QGIS via external plugins. So QGIS, being a modular and open source platform, allows you to create or to download plugins adding functionalities to your GIS software. This part of the afternoon is the last part, but it's very important because we will now show the Mappy plugin, how to use it, and it will affect also the next days of the school. So plugins are very easy. They are to install. You see on the top bar here, there is a plugin button, and there's a menu opening up, manage and install plugins. If you click this button, it will open up an interface, a video interface, where basically you can see a list of objects. These are all plugins, let's say, approved by and put on the QGIS official repository, and you can look for plugins. For example, Trent was mentioning the coordinate capture plugin for checking the Mars coordinates on its project, and we simply can type coordinates capture, coordinates converter, coordinate capture, here it is. You see there are a bunch of other options. The way to install a plugin is pretty simple. You click on the plugin, it provides you a description, the programming language it's written, the author, the stable version, when it's being updated, and so on. And the only thing you need to do is to click install plugin. When the plugin is installed, it will tell you, and then you can perform other operations. You can uninstall the plugin, you can reinstall it if you are running into some issues. You can update the plugin if you see that there is some updates. It just downloads the new version, and then you will find it here. Close. And some of the plugins can be found here in this menu. They will be added as new voices just here below, or in this case, you find them here. It depends on where the programmer wants you to have them. There are a bunch of plugins we can use this week. A good one, for example, to know something about the topography is called Profile Tool. This one, with this icon here. You can install the plugin the same way as before. You click, it downloads the plugin for you. You can close the plugin manager. It adds a button, in this case here. You see a new icon was created, and here a new voice was added, terrain profile. Quickly, I can show you how it works. You can click on this icon. You see we have the topography as before. We overlaid topography on the image, so we know there is some altimetric information in this project. We click this button and it creates a new window, a new interface that can be detached, as Luca showed before, can be moved around, attached in different places. For the moment, I leave it here. I zoom in again, and this is how a plugin could appear. They could be simple function to click, but most of them open new windows and add new functionalities. In this case, we had DTM, it's the HRSC DA4 DTM, and we can extract a topographic profile on that. So if you click on this button here and you toggle on this plugin, you see your cursor is changing into a cross. And by simply clicking, you can create the trace of your topographic profile. So you right click again, and then nothing happens because I did something wrong. You have to double click, not right click in this case. So you have to click with the left button and then double click again to close your profile line. So this is the section on which you want to know how the topography behaves. Then we go here, we select the topography, and here you click add a layer. So here you can add your topographic information, and on the left you will have your topographic profile. And if you hover the mouse, you will have on the left the altimetry in meters. In the x-axis, you have the distance. So I have created a profile which is more or less 40 kilometers, yeah, more or less. And then if you hover the mouse, it will tell you the coordinates in x and y, and on the top you see where your cursor is. So you know exactly that you're crossing, for example, the rim of the crater, you're going down, then you're encountering the central peak, and so on. If you have other DTMs here stacked onto your layers, you can add more, and you can change the color, and you can stack one on top of the other, different data sets in order also to compare a topography with another. And then you can save them as plots in PNG or in vector graphics like SVG or CAD files. You can have not only the topography, but also you can have directly on the fly the slope in percentage or in degrees. If you click here, you have the degrees of slope. You see the topography is changing, and this means here the slope is quite flat. Here it's up to 20 degrees, and here you see, and it's a very useful tool. You can see also the values on the DTMs into meters, and you can export into your, if you want to create some plots, some charts, you can copy to your clipboard and put it into Excel or MATLAB or whatever you want. And this is a very nice plugin that I advise you to install. One is the profile tool. Another plugin that we will use in the next days that I will advise you to install also is QProf. It's another profile tool that is doing something more. It's creating geologic, the basis for geologic cross-section to interpret the subsurface after we have created a geologic map. In the same way, we can install QProf. It downloads the data, and then you have your plugin here. And it's stored here just below the previous one. Okay, this is the simplest way to download plugins. Of course, if you go to GitHub, there are many more. And we have provided into the download data for you for this exercise, not only the two base maps, but also a zip file, which is here, you see. If you have downloaded this folder, you will have these two data sets, the image, the DTM, and this zip file, which is Mappy latest. Mappy is a plugin that actually Luca created that is easing the process of mapping. If you go to the plugin manager, you will find there is another version of Mappy. Actually not, because you have to enable here in the settings the experimental plugins. And if you click on Mappy, you find it. Don't install it. This is a former version, an older version, just for you to know that if the one provided into the zip file here doesn't work, if this doesn't work, you will have also the one in the repository that works a bit different. But as you've seen, we have a zip file, and this means we can install plugins also from zip files. So you have to open your plugin manager, the window pops up, you have to go down and go to install from zip. Here with this button, you can browse to the location where you have your zip file. In this case, I'll have it here. QGIS demo, Mappy latest. You select your zip file, you open, then it puts here the path of your zip file, and you click install plugin. It prompts you this message. You can simply answer yes, and then the plugin is successfully installed. And you can close the plugin manager. It opens up a window here, which is the Mappy window. And also it adds 2 new buttons to your toolbar. These buttons here can also be dragged and rearranged. If you go and hover your mouse on this dotted area here, you can move these buttons. You can put them up or down. I will put them here for convenience. And these buttons are used for the Mappy plugin. So this toggles on the menu or toggles off the menu, and I will show you how this works. This is the Mappy menu. This is the processing toolbox. We can even close it. We are not using it now. And the processing toolbox, as you remember, can be enabled or either from here, processing toolbox, or from this button here, which looks similar to the Mappy button. So in the previous part of this afternoon of this session slot, we have shown you how to create a geo package, which is a box, basically a container where you put your geometries, your points, your lines, and your polygons. Okay. This is one way to do mapping, because you can simply highlight different portions of geologic units, for example, the ejecta of the crater, the rivers, the small islands, the mesas, using polygons. But if we want to have, and actually for the mapping it's needed to have all the polygons topologically correct. So it means that one is in close contact with the other, with no seams, with no gaps, that the vertices are correspondent one to another. And by drawing by hand is not always the best solution. And also it's very, very time consuming. So I think that Mappy comes in handy with that, because I delete these ones and I will show you how it works. Normally, what geologists do when they also go on the field, they need to go somewhere, check the lithologies, check the types of rocks, and then they map contacts between 2 different types of rocks. There can be a contact between a volcanic and a sedimentary, in this case, the contact between a morphology, so the ejecta of the crater and the surrounding plains, and so on. And Mappy, what it does, if we open up again the processing toolbox, you will see that Mappy has also a small menu here. Okay, so if you close this one, you go in your simple processing toolbox, you have a voice of the Mappy 2. If you go here, you see different voices. What I want you to focus on is in the quick mapping project setup. So what you need to do to use the Mappy is basically open QGIS, have Mappy installed, of course, drag and drop your raster files, your TIFF, your cogs, whatever, set this the correct CRS, and then simply go here and double click this option, this button. It creates all the construction files for you. It can be called, I don't know, Mars geologic map. The projection is the project CRS, is the sinusoidal Mars. And then we can choose where to save it. We can save it to a temporary directory. It means that when we close QGIS, it will be gone, it will be deleted. Or we can save it permanently on our hard drive. We can save it in the QGIS demo school and Mappy demo. You open it, oops, the window disappears, but it's still there. It just sometimes it goes back behind the main interface. So you have the path where you want to save your quick mapping project. So what you need to do is simply put the name, put the CRS, choose where to save it, and click run. It does a bunch of stuff, and then it populates your layers with different things, different geometries. What it does is to create a geo package here for you, and a project file already saved. So you have a geo package with all these geometries saved inside, and also your project file with your geologic map. And you see the name has changed here. It's called now Mars Geologic Map. So it's already pre-prepared some stuff for you. Now, we need to go to the main interface here. And we need to know which are the limits. So the contacts between two geologic units or geologic boundary. The source indicators, I will tell you later what it is. And be sure to have checked the unit name. This is just for you to check. If this is correctly placed, so source contacts, source indicators, and unit name, we are happy. And we can even close the main interface. Okay, now we start mapping. So I have the contacts here. Contacts can be edited as before. I toggle on the edit button. I can add some geometries. I quickly add mark the border between the ejecta of this crater. In this case, I can enable the snapping if I want. Okay, just so I can snap the geometry here. It's a certain contact, so I clearly see it. Maybe I need to make it more visible, just for the sake of this demonstration. I can map, for example, this crater, then the edge of this crater. I can even choose not to snap it, but if I have snapping disabled, I can just crisscross the tip where I started to map. And if I left click and I'm crossing something, a green cross appears. This is again a certain contact. I put certain. I can go on and on. I can map, for example, this meandering riverbeds here. It's certain. Now I will just create a small bunch of geometries for you, so then you will understand how Mappy works. Certain. I have a crater here, a Mappy crater. Okay, I may have, for example, uncertain contacts between the central peak of this crater because I don't clearly see it, and the surroundings. So I can write uncertain, and so on and so forth. I have the mesas as before. I just mark the contact between the mesa and the surrounding plains. I can enable snapping again for my convenience, and so on. So let's say I've created a bunch of features like here, another contact from here to here, and so on and so forth. And then I can also delimit the area where I am mapping. Okay, for example, creating an area that is delimiting the surroundings of my mapping area. I can call it again a certain contact, although it's not a contact in this case. So you see, I've created a bunch of contacts between different units. I can save them. And now what I need to do is to click this button here. And you will see what happens now. I click this button and something changed. So I have something more appearing here in my layers. I have the final map and the final contacts here. Okay, I can disable this for the moment. So I was working just with source contacts. I click the refresh button of Mappy, and the final map polygonized and the final contacts appears. Also, look at these source indicators. If I disable the final map, you will see that I have a bunch of points that are being put inside every geometry. It's not so visible. I changed the color so you can see it better. I put it in red, or make better in white. Okay, and also make them larger. You see, Mappy has put some points, entities inside every closed area marked by a contact. And what does these things? These are basically some tags for our geologic units. You know, it's an indication for Mappy to know that this is a closed entity that needs to become a polygon and needs to become a specific geologic unit. So as Luca showed before, we can, and if we look also at the attribute table, we see that here we have a unit name. So every point has a field in its table that is the unit name. This can be populated by toggling on the editing. You can toggle on here or here and checking where they are. For example, this one here can be the crater ejecta. Okay. This one here, I don't see it, but it's, yeah, it's the, I don't know, can be plains. The number 3 here can be riverbed or channel. You can edit the table like that, or as Luca showed before, you can also use this button here on the top, identify features. And you can click on a specific object like that, and you can call it central peak. Okay, this is probably easier. This can crater. This is a mesa. Okay. Let's see if we have anything missing. And this can be, I don't know, islands. This is a small crater. Small crater. This is a channel again. Okay. Now I can stop editing. I have tagged lots and lots of features. I can save my edits. And so the only thing I need to do is to refresh my map. I click refresh, and what Mappy does is to update your final map with all the tags I put inside these objects. These are your geologic units, basically. And if you see, now I have my map with color-coded geologic units. This is, of course, a very ugly map. You can also go to the properties in symbology, and you can create an overlay blending for this map, which is convenient in this case, and we can also disable for the moment in topography. If we go to source indicator to their properties with the right click of your mouse, we can also, in the symbology tab, you can categorize these by their unit name. It's the field on their attribute table. If we click classify, this is what we have assigned up to now. And if you apply, we have them here. So we know if we are working with different stuff, or if we want to add new geologic units. Let's say I'm happy with this map, but I found that I have another geologic unit here. I see this channel, which is a different channel. It's maybe a paleo channel. So what I need to do is work again only in my source contacts. I edit, I add a bunch of contacts between the channel and the surrounding planes, like so. Okay, no need to be precise at the moment, but just to get you an idea. And here you see I have marked a different area. So if I refresh Mappy, of course I need to save. I made some mistakes probably. No, I didn't make any mistake. Mappy created another enclosed area. It added a point because it's seeing that you have marked a new unit, and the point is not assigned. You see, it's the blue one, this one. So we have 2 unassigned points. We can edit them by toggle on editing, go to the identify features. We can assign the unit name like paleo channels, and this can be again surrounding planes like this one. So be sure to be consistent with the names. So this is actually called planes like this one. So it means that it's the same entity. If we click OK and then we refresh, it asks you to save. You see, now we have the planes here and here. They are the same thing, the same object. You see, and this is the paleo channel. And here it added also this voice to your legend. Now you see, I'm not being precise in mapping the contacts. I have lots of
Riccardo.
yeah.
Riccardo, sorry. Just before you go ahead, I would like to propose if I could redo everything from scratch. Just because I see there are a couple of people that got lost. And then you go ahead showing, let's say, the final contacts and the styling of certain and certain. So I just redo all the steps so you don't have to do them.
That's perfect. I mean, I know it's difficult, so it's better to repeat all the steps.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. So I should be sharing my screen again and just open up also the video so you can have my face. Yeah. So let's say we want to start a mapping project. What we did before was to create, let's say, a new layer for the lines, a new layer for the points. And you can do that by hand. To do that, you remember layer, create layer, new package layer, you choose which kind of type of feature you want to map, etc. So to speed up the work in the school, what you could do is to exploit Mappy. I don't have coordinate capture plugin in the list. I installed it, but it's still missing. Look, one possibility, I installed it. Did you install the QGIS? One thing that maybe Riccardo didn't say, it's some of the plugin. I'm not sure it's the case. Yes, indeed, it's not mandatory. But for some plugins, you should enable also the experimental plugin. I'm not sure. Let me check. How it's called? Coordinates capture. No, it's
called
there.
Coordinate. Yeah, capture.
Yeah, coordinate capture. You should have that. I don't.
It's not mandatory for our school, by the way. So if the other work, then it's
okay. Yeah. So back where we were. So Mappy adds for you some tools in the processing toolbox. So the processing toolbox, you can access it here by clicking this gear. You have all the tools for processing vector, raster, etc. In between them, you should find Mappy. One of the tools we are going to show you, possibly the only one, is quick mapping project setup. And this is not mandatory. You can create your vector layer if you have some time. But we know during the practicals, some instructor might have decided to make you create the layer, so you know how to do that. And some other instructors will tell you, oh, just use this one because we can start mapping quicker. It works like that. You just have to decide a name. So it might be Mars mapping. You choose the projection. You just need to select the project CRS because we already set it before. And then a place where to store. By default, it will be something like this. And if you press run, it will create for you 3 different layers, right? A point layer and 2 line layers, which are just hard-coded. Is something that we believed might be useful for you during your mapping. And then you have to work in the following way. You basically use the source contacts. It's a line layer. So you go over source contacts, you enable editing, and then you create new lines. Each line will be a contact between 2 different units. So it will be kind of the line of separation between what you believe it's, I don't know, the surrounding plane or the ejecta blanket. So for example, if I want to map this contact, the one between the surrounding planes and the ejecta, I can do something like this. Just don't try to be precise now. What we need is you to get how to use this tool. And once when I meet, sorry, I started to be tired. When you reach the end of your line, just make sure that you cross each other, right? Something like this. And you see it lights up with this green arrow. Then you do a right click. You see we are already prepared for use some fields. One is certainty, because it might be quite useful. And you can see whether you are certain or not so much, and you are approximating. So for example, I'm quite certain of this contact. I press OK, and you have your first line. As always, if you want to change the style, opening tab, just a matter of double click or right click properties. So I set it to 1, to a quite large lines. Then maybe I decide another contact. So for example, that one separating the crater interior along its rim from the ejecta blanket. Again, also here, just make sure you cross each other line, or you could use the snapping tool, as you prefer. Right click, I'm quite certain, press OK. Maybe I'm not so certain about the contact I will trace here. So I can trace another one and call it uncertain, for example. Okay, so we created some contacts. When you cross the line and right click, the line disappear. I don't know what is happening. Be sure to have the ordering of the different layers right, because of course if I get source contacts below, it disappears. Or you might need to set up the style, because maybe it is too small or something like that. It shouldn't be. And it might depend. I actually don't know. Maybe later send us some screenshot of what is happening, if you could them over Discord. And for example, another content might be just the one I will be using to identify the area I will be mapping, right? So I press OK. I've got several contacts. Now, and I know each contact is separating different units. So ejecta blanket here, outside I've got, I don't know, the surrounding planes. I've got the inner crater, ejecta blanket, the central bulge, and the inner crater or something like that, right? So when I'm happy with the work I've been doing, I can start using the Mappy plugin, right? So I just traced contacts. Now I will process those contacts in order to generate a polygonal layer, an additional polygonal layer that can be used then to create your final map, for example, right? So I go over here, Mappy. If it's not open, just try to locate the Mappy tools in the toolbar. You can close it and open it, pressing the selected gear. You need to do some setup. Should be already set up the right way if you more or less use this quick mapping project setup. You say which are the contacts, which are the indicator points, which are already here, source indicators. So source indicator here. And you just need to say which field will be used to populate the names of your units. You might want to change this. It should be already set, but it might be possible that you might want to change it. But anyway, as soon as I press this button, ask me if I want to save, it will generate different polygons for you. So that's the big point. So Mappy helps you to move from lines to polygons, right? And also to give a name to those polygons. So how do we name them? We use this layer, which is called source indicators, that I can change also here the styling. Also Riccardo did it before. Make the points quite bigger and black, so you can see them. So you have those different points. And by, for example, using identify feature, I enable the editing, and I can start name the different units. So for example, this one will be external planes. This one will be inner crater. You can name them as you want. This will be central bulge. And this one will be the rocket. Okay. As soon as I do that and I run again Mappy with the same configuration, I don't need to change that. Just press save. It will add the colors for me in the polygons, right? So if you want to open it up, you go under properties, you see that Mappy created for you the legend, right? Using the same values, you have been putting in the point layers, transferring them to the polygons. Anyone got totally lost again? Just tell us. I mean, it's really important that if you're gonna be part of the next practicals, you get at least how it works. Then you will have time to fix some more stuff. But of course, repeat please the point when you reveal points. Look, the point reveal points. Why does it create another shape? That's another thing that Riccardo will show you.
Is that you just move the points from the bottom to the top of the function?
Yeah, just remember, maybe we didn't say it, but the layers have an ordering, right? So at the bottom, I have the raster. If I bring it up on top of everything disappears. That might be why some of you were saying, oh, I create a line, I cannot see it anymore. It might be possible, I'm not sure. So if I bring this raster back again, you see that everything appears. Same for the points. If the points are here, I can bring them below the polygons and I will not see them anymore. Again, how to create the polygons with Mappy automatically? Yes. So again, you start with something like this. I will just try to emulate what happens. So you have your final, you have your, where they are, source contacts layer, this one. You go over here in Mappy, in its dialog. You set up correctly the input. So the contacts will be source contacts, right? Indicator points should be already preset for you. We just have one point layer. We use this one. And the fields unit comes from the source contact source indicators. So if I open it up, I open the attribute table for the points, you see that I have a field which is called unit name, right? That's what I'm setting here. Use unit name of the layer source indicators. As soon as I'm happy, I just press update. And what happens is that it will generate the polygons for you and also transfer the names we have been setting in the points. What do you think? Is there anything that is anyone that will need to have some clarification again?
They're asking why how you topology you can clean the dangles, the crossing stuff, and why it creates the
there is an option.
Basically, you need to show also that the final contacts are
okay. There is an option. Yeah. There is this option which is generate clean contacts, which you can enable or disable, but by default should be enabled. And you see here that at the very end, you run Mappy. It will create for you a layer which is called final contacts with the same name that you can find here. You can actually change it. What happened here is that you start with this kind of contacts, and the final contacts instead are basically a copy of them, but without these dangling ends, right? So it creates a perfect match with your polygonal layer, right? So you start from source contacts and you see you have a lot of problems here. but at the end you might want to use final contacts. So the idea is that while you work, you can be not so precise, but at the end, whenever you want to, I don't know, create the final map, you actually want to have a layer which is actually precise. I've got only the 2 central contacts colored, but not all of them. This depends, so again, if I want to change something, don't get lost. Just think about this. The only stuff that we really need to care about is source contacts and source indicators. So just 2 layers. You end up with a lot of stuff here, but it's not so important. Just disable them. We care about source contacts. We don't care about final contacts. We care about source indicators. So let's see what happens if I add some new units. I will try to edit source contacts. You enable the editing, and I will add some new lines. For example, for those channels here. So I start creating new contacts like this. I will just not set any information in the field. So another one like this. I'm actually exaggerating the imprecision, right? And I want to create another one here. Maybe another one here. Okay, so I created some new contacts. Now the only thing I have to do, be sure to have everything set up correctly and press update, right? I will press update, and I don't see basically anything, right? You just see that Mappy created for you some new points here, 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 and here, because we have been defining 3 new different units. And what I can do, I can enable the final map. And as you see, I have 3 different units, but with the same color, right? So that was basically the question. How do I change it? Well, the point is that I need to put some information in that polygon so that QGIS can know that is a different unit, right? Have a look at that. If I right-click on Final Map, I open the attribute table, right? You see all your polygons. You can actually press them and see where they are in theory. Let's see if it works. Look, this 2-1 is the external planes. The 3-1 is the ejecta blanket. But we have quite some that doesn't have any value associated, so they doesn't have a name. So this one, for example, this one, and this one, which are the last one we created. So how we give them a name? You might be tempted in going just here, changing the name, but as you see, you cannot, because I actually programmed Mappy to disable this editing because I really don't want you to change this information. What we will do instead is change what is within the source indicators layers. If you don't run the lines, exactly, if you don't cross the lines, it won't make any polygons. So to change those indicators, I want to show you another thing because it might be useful. If you go on the properties of any layer, actually, you also have an option which is called labels. It's normally set up to be no labels, but if you want to enable it, just try it out. If you go over in single labels, for example, and just press OK, you see that now we got the names of every point, right, plotted on the map. So, for example, I want to give names to those units, right? Source indicators, I select the layer. Now I enable the editing. I can use the identify feature or the attribute table. So let's say this one, the 6th one is this one. This is, I don't know, channel 1. This might be channel 2, you see. That one might be channel I. As soon as I'm happy with that, we just need to press refresh or recompute the map again. I recompute the map, I save, will take a little bit, and then you end up with 3 different units. So now in the legend you have the central bulge, ejecta blanket, inner crater, etc., and also channel 1, channel 2, channeled area. And you see also, if you cross the lines in a bad way, like I did here, you end up with additional polygons which are very small. In that case, you can just clean it up with the vertex tool, like so. You can go back, move, and just make sure that they don't overlap. And save it again. Enable the map, and I will just generate it again. You see that now they don't cross each other, so you end up with just 1 unit. So Mappy is not smart enough to delete the points for you, but you know how to do so. So source indicators, enable editing. You can use the select tool, select the point, press delete. You will just remove that. Is that fine? Does that make sense? So instead of creating complex polygons by hand, we just create lines and points. The points gives the names to the final polygons, right? The lines are just the contacts between different units. This makes it possible that, for example, if you may start with a map with something like that. I will just enable some transparency for you. For example, I set the layer to be in overlay mode. So you end up with something like this. And that may be an approximation. So if you want to improve your map, it's just a matter of going over source contacts. You might want to use the vertex tool and, I don't know, maybe improving it a little bit, right? So that it follows better the geometry. And this is possibly a suggestion for the next days. Don't lose too much time in trying to be super accurate at the very beginning. Don't try to put down thousands of points to track the geometry, but first of all, start by tracing down the most important stuff approximatively, like I did here. You can still go back, change your lines, like I'm doing here, and improve your mapping later. I changed the line. As soon as I'm happy, I will press again, recompute the map. Takes a moment, and then I end up with new polygons like so, right? Yeah, I didn't close that one. You see what happens? It creates just one. You see here, the 2 lines are separated, but you can spot it right away. You just need to select the source contact vertex tool and move on the other side and generate it again. Rick, if you want to show some advanced styling for the certain contacts and certain, maybe how to cut a part of a contact. Starting to be light here. How did you make the final map semi-transparent again? No problem. So over a layer. So for example, yeah, exactly. Adhesions are blocked for source contacts. How to turn it on? How to get source indicators? Yes, got it. Okay. All the instruments are blocked for source indicators.
Yeah, source indicators are generated automatically.
Yeah.
You don't have to generate it.
Okay, guys, again, I close everything very quickly. I will show it again. quick mapping project. You can use this one, or you can just create each layer by hand. So for example, Susanna, you are missing one layer, no problem, just create it. You are missing a point layer because source indicator is a point layer with a field, just create it. You can create it going over layer, create layer, new job package. If you want to do everything quickly, create them all together, you can go here. I will choose a different name, Mars2, map Mars2, and I set the project CRS. And as I click run, just confirm, Susanna, if it works for you. As I click run, you see here, it will create a linear feature, source contacts, source indicator, right? Then what you need to do is just edit your contact, and I will do quite quickly here to show you that one, maybe that one, right? Maybe another one here. I created all the contacts. If you want to, I will just increase the size here so you can see them. As I create them, I will go here, check whether everything is set up correctly. So your source contacts, source indicators, unit name here, and I will just press recompute map. And you see the map is automatically computed, right? And what I want you to see is that we have those polygons, and we also have source indicators. I will bring them up because maybe you cannot see them. And you see added automatically each point here. So now we can start naming the thing we have been putting down. So edit. We can use this tool. You can use the attribute table directly. I will just use the identify feature tool. I click on the point. Maybe this is external planes, something like this. Maybe this is data blanket. And maybe this is the central bulge. Maybe this is, I don't know, just granted. Right, so I've got 4 different units. I gave them the name using source indicators. I will just press recompute map. Now the map appears with the colors. So the 1, 2, 3, 4 different units, right? If you want to make it transparent, just, I mean, it is quite easy. If you forgot how to do something, if it's a property of the layers, of course, we will find it under properties. And it is, of course, under symbology, because if you look around, it doesn't make much sense to have them. I mean, yeah, just trying to guide you in self-solving this kind of problem. And it's under layer rendering. And actually, this is not really visible at all, but it's over there, layer rendering. And you see you have an opacity slider. You can change that, but it's not so nice looking. If you go over here in blending mode, you can change it to overlay. So you just press OK, and you end up with something like that. If I change my mind, I want to improve my contacts because I was so sloppy, no problem. Just go over source contacts, enable editing, vertex tool, and you can start changing it, right? You see the polygons stay where they are. They don't change until I will press this button, so recompute map, right? You can change it, and so on. Just double check you intersect the lines, and as you are happy, just press recompute. Okay. Susanna, was you able to catch up? Oh, great. If anybody else, don't be worried. We can stay here even half an hour more. Just tell us, because it's the right moment. If you don't quite get how to use this tool, how to use QGIS, is the moment to just tell. I'm happy to do it again if it's needed. I cannot rename layers. I'm not sure what do you mean by
Be
rename
sure
layers.
to have the editing on. It's a problem that other people had. Editing of the source indicators is off by default. You have to toggle on, then you can rename the units.
I mean, those are the layers, right? So if you mean rename layers, I would imagine that something like this. So maybe I don't want to call them source contacts, and I want to call them contacts, right? Only. I don't know if it's what Francesco was meaning. And you see here, you have to, it changed the name, so you have to set it up again. But nothing really bad happened, in theory, at least. Let's see what happened. We will just recompute. Find a way to write planes. Okay, so planes is written in source indicators, right? So in the points. I will show you again how to display the labels. Source indicators properties. Under the different option, you can find labels, right? That one. You can set it up to be single labels, and just the default should work. But you see here, you can set different fields to be used as labels. And just press OK. I will just increase the size so you can see it better. Press OK, right? So you have the different names of the units which are located exactly on the points. So again, source indicators enable the editing. That should work, toggle editing. And then we can use, for example, this tool, identify features. So for example, I want to name crater, but first I should give the name to the point. I'm not sure to get what Francesco is saying. I will give the name to the point. I mean, let's see it again. Contacts, I will create some more units, like one here, right? One here, that's just a random unit, right? There is no point here. As soon as I press recompute map, I also get a new point, right? I also get a new point, but I don't have any name here. So I need to give a name to the point. I select source indicators now because it's the layer with the points. And then I can use identify features. I click on the point. If I go in source indication, my attribute table is different. I cannot.
You have to toggle the editing on. It's off by default.
Yeah.
You have to.
Are you missing toggle editing? That one. Editing is on. So if it's on your table, I mean, just source indicators, right? Open attribute table should be like so.
And you can toggle on also from the attribute table.
It appears different. Well, it's better if you can do a screenshot and send it over in Discord. So Riccardo can have a look maybe. And should appear like this. You can disable the editing here. I'm curious now to see how it differs. If you are happy with Mappy, yes, I would like you to.
Just need to show the styling and the final contacts that are clean. Yeah.
See, yes, if you want, I can do it very rapidly.
Do
you only
it
does if you have just 5 minutes more, I can show you. So styling, is that something you might do at the very end or when you start to have a good map and you want to give the styling to your lines? It might be especially important for your contacts because as we said, if you open the attribute table, we have this field, which is the certainty of the different lines. Some of them maybe are certain, some are approximate, some are certain, some uncertainty, right? So you might want to display them differently depending if they are certain, if they are approximate, or any other kind of fields you have here. To do so, right click on the layer, properties. You see under symbology, you have different options. And the only option you might want to know for now is categorized. And it will ask you which, on the basis of which value do we need to categorize. And we select certainty. Just by pressing classify, we end up with different colors, right? So we have certain features which are approximate, the green one, right? And the blue one are certain. You may want, of course, to use symbology, which is appropriate for planetary bodies. Anyway, for example, typical certain contact might be just black, right? An uncertain contact or approximate one, you might go here. If you click on simple line, you see the line properties. We might want to change it to, I don't know, dot line. So we have certain and uncertain contacts. What happens is that at the very end, if we press again recompute map, Mappy will copy over your style definition for the contacts over in final contacts. So you basically have to do nothing and you end up with a map which is basically complete in this way. You have your contacts, you have styled them depending if they are certain or uncertain. You might also want to enable source indicators, maybe change the style to have the names of the different units placed on your map or something like that. I believe this is mostly what we really need for tomorrow. And so if anybody is really tired, I know there is a kind of time zone problem, just feel free to leave as soon as we have the recordings, but I'm not sure they will be here for tomorrow. We will share them, of course. Riccardo, is there anything else?
Yes, I got a screen from Francesco Gallo. Maybe we can solve it in Discord.
Okay.
I've seen it. He has a differently looking attribute table, and
is it in Discord?
Not yet.
Could you send it if you got?
It's in the chat here. I've seen the problem before, actually. If everybody else is happy, we can. I think we can.
I will just try to have a look at this. No, that's okay. Look at this. Who had the problem? Francesco, right?
Yes.
Let's say I open it up, the source indicators attribute table. I open it up like so, open attribute table, and mine is different from yours. There are quite different ways of displaying this attribute table, and it's not quite easy to understand, but you see those bottom buttons. These buttons at the bottom here. You see you can change between different views. One is the form view, which is more something you can find in database program. and this is the table view. Possibly the table view is the most useful, because in the form view, you see here, you can go in the different features. You see they light up actually. So the first one, they light up while I click, I go ahead.
I think Luca is stuck for some reason. So if you are okay with all the things we have discussed today, you can close it here. And with if you have more specific questions, I will encourage you to write in the Discord channel. It's called this GIS Help Desk. You can provide screenshots and whatever you want to signal us your problems. Apart from that, the recordings from today will be put up into the Discord main page, into the Indico main page, along with the instructions for participants that you have seen in the past few days. So there will be a new menu page for the recordings, and they will be up as soon as we close this meeting and we are finished the encoding on the videos. And with this, I think we thank you. It's very late, and
yeah, thank you very much. I got kicked out by Zoom.
you're a hacker. And
thank you anyway. If you have if you have problems next days over Discord.
Yeah, in the next days during the mapping activities, me and Luca will be around helping people that are not keeping the pace. We will meet with them in separate rooms and try to solve the technical problems. So don't be scared, and enjoy this mapping week.